Good morning and welcome to another Walk with Wingman. How are you today? I hope you had a great week last week and that you're getting ready for another wonderful week. I am cooling down after my workout. It is actually beautiful today, warm enough that I don't necessarily have to wear my earmuffs, but I hope where you are that the weather is great, and I want to send a prayer to all of those that are currently living in areas of the world that are being negatively impacted by some of just the most amazing weather patterns that we've ever seen. I was listening this morning to what's going on in New Zealand, and just your heart goes out to people anywhere in the world that are impacted by negative weather events. So we're thinking of you, and know that as communities, you'll come together and grow stronger as you recover from what has happened. So just a couple things this week. And again, I love reading all your comments and your direct messages. So thank you. Please keep them coming. I love opportunities to make these walks aligned with things that you want to hear about. What's going on in the world? Last week was a little bit of a slow week, so not much happening. Today's walk, I do want to touch a little bit on the blog post that I created last Monday, maybe, around falling forward. And we can talk about that in a minute. This coming week, I want to remind everyone that February starts American Heart Month, and Friday is Wear Red Day. And so trying to make sure that we share messages about the continuing impact of cardiovascular disease on morbidity and mortality in the US and worldwide, and understanding steps that you can take in order to, one, know your numbers, and two, reduce your risk, because much of what we know of cardiovascular disease and is preventable. I know some of you probably saying, well, it runs in my family or it's genetic, but remember that your genes don't dictate your destiny. And a lot of the lifestyle choices that you make will determine what is expressed based on your genetic makeup. And you have the power to control your health and prevent disease, reverse disease, or manage disease. So going into February, as you can imagine, I'll be talking a little bit about American Heart Month and sharing with you just some things that I think it would benefit you to know or to share with your loved ones around reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease, which, as Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn always says, it's a paper tiger. And much of it is preventable, provided we take the appropriate lifestyle steps to eat well. So nutrition, adding more plants to your plate, being physically active, which is why we're out here walking, focusing on your sleep, stress, your social connections, and reducing your risk or exposure to potentially toxic substances like cigarettes, vaping, and alcohol. Okay, I'll stop preaching for now. Well, just for a few minutes. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was the opportunity, good morning, to share with you some thoughts on last week's blog post, which was about falling forward. And, you know, it's funny because I was listening, I had a long opportunity to listen to several podcasts yesterday on my long run, and was listening again to a couple of things today. And I think it was a podcast by Ella Mills from Deliciously Ella that really solidified some of the things that I've been sharing with you. You know, I'm really not an extrovert. I'm not necessarily someone who wants to be out there on TikTok and Instagram and all these other social media platforms. But I made a promise. I promised my dad that I would continue to be a wingman. And so, in any way I can, I want to be able to share knowledge with anyone who's willing to listen. And that's the why behind the walk, the blog, the podcast, and any other venue I can take to help all of us be healthier, happier, and live longer. But the reason I posted last week about falling forward, it was after watching a YouTube video with Denzel Washington and Eliud Kipchoge, both of whom I just adore. And the key message from that YouTube video was that if you don't try, you won't fail. But don't think of failure as a defeat. It's really an opportunity to fall forward into something that is better or a lesson learned. And I mean, I know that sounds strange because that's not how we're brought up. We're all brought up with this negative sense of if you don't meet the goal that you set out to, that you quote unquote failed. Well, that's not true. Anytime you try something, whether you succeed and meet the goal or whether you perhaps don't get there, you learn and you fall forward so that the next time you try it or you try something harder or bigger, that you have learnings that you can apply to improve the chance of success that next time. So don't be afraid to try and don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, because living in that comfort zone forever will just condemn you to a life of questioning whether you could. And not trying or trying and not meeting that goal the first time or the second time or the third time, that's okay. If Eliud Kipchoge had said, well, I'm never going to be able to run a marathon under 2 hours, then he never would have been able to do it. But he kept falling forward. He kept trying. He believed that no human is limited. So don't believe that you are limited either. And yes, it can be scary to try and fail publicly or privately, but that's okay. If you don't try, you don't know. And when you try, you learn. You learn about yourself. You learn about the world. You learn about the team you have around you to support you and lift you up through good times and hard times. So that was the message that I was trying to share last week. And I can repost it with this video because I really think it's important, and it came up quite a few times this week during conversations I had around, last week didn't go well, I failed, I didn't accomplish my goal, and that's okay. So let's fall forward and make sure that we don't repeat what happened last time, as opposed to saying you're stuck where you are because you didn't achieve the goal last week. Last week is over. This is another week. Let's move forward and talk about where we're going to go in terms of goals this week. So what are your goals this week? What is your goal to be 1% better? Whether it's, hitting the 10-mile mark on your run, or whether it's walking for 5 minutes with me, or whether it's prepping your meals. There's many, many opportunities to be 1% better. And maybe it's just, as Mel Robbins said, as I was listening to earlier this morning, looking in the mirror and giving yourself a high five. That may be what you need to do to be 1% better. So I've been walking and talking for almost 10 minutes. I know that it's way over the 5 minutes that we initially started. We're now in the double digits. Well, we've been in double digits of Walk with Wingman. So I want to thank you again for taking time to walk. I hope you're enjoying some of these conversations, and I continue to appreciate your feedback around things you want to talk about, want to hear about, what's on your mind. As I said at the top of the stream, February, I'll be focusing a lot on American Heart Month. Just a reminder that Friday is Wear Red for Women Day to help raise awareness around the risk of cardiovascular disease in women. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you and have a great Sunday. Be well.